Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. You're listening to the Mental for Moto podcast. And we're live. Welcome back to another episode of the Mental for Moto show. I'm your host, Pete Wolf. Big thanks to our sponsors, Death Grip Products and Works Racing. For a whopping 35% off the Death Grip Reaper gloves, head over to www.deathgrip.store and use the discount code MENTAL23. This is a limited offer, so get your order in ASAP. And to celebrate our latest sponsor, Works Racing, coming aboard, we're giving away 2 pairs of Works Racing motocross goggles, complete with the Clear Vision roll-off system. For your chance to win, check out the relevant post on the Mental for Moto Instagram or Facebook pages and follow the instructions below the post. It's super easy and it'll help us out too. Alrighty, well, we've got a great show planned for you today. Shortly, we'll be checking in with 3 pro riders, Jai Constantinou from the Empire Kawasaki team, and 2 privateers, Riley Fucsko and Tony Spinelli, who will all be battling it out with some of the best riders in Australia at this weekend's AMX MX Open in Wonthaggi. I'll be speaking to each of them about their pre-season prep, their individual goals for the MX Open, and hopefully look ahead to their plans for the 2023 Penrite Pro MX Nationals. I really appreciate these guys for taking the time to come on the podcast. They're all at completely different stages in their respective motocross journeys, so I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say. But before we get into all that, I want to say a quick thanks to everyone that has listened and subscribed to the podcast so far. It's a lot more work behind the scenes than I ever expected, but I'm absolutely loving doing these episodes, and I really want to keep this growing, improving, and making it bigger and better. We're starting to get back some more of the detailed analytics from the various podcasting hosting platforms too, and I must admit I'm pretty stoked. Our download numbers are growing steadily, and we're reaching a broad demographic with listeners of all ages tuning in. A little surprisingly, nearly 20% of all listeners of the Mental for Moto podcast so far have been female, which I think is pretty awesome. As I mentioned in my first intro episode, I'd love to feature some of the WMX athletes in our upcoming podcast episode, so hopefully we can make that happen. Okay, let's move on to the subject of this podcast, the AMX MX Open. I've heard on the grapevine that there are now over 260 total entries for the event, and the Premier class so far has about 50 or so entries each, which is a whopping turnout. Full gates in the MX1 and MX2 classes will guarantee there's going to be some cracking racing. If you're in the area over the long weekend, I'd definitely suggest getting over to Wanty to check it out. It's not often we get to see some of the absolute best riders in the country competing live. For those of you who haven't ridden Wonthaggi or visited the track in person, while it's not a sand track in the purest sense, the dirt there is a sandy loam and it gets ripped deep. Once the riders have been around a few times, it quickly begins to rut up, and the loose, loamy dirt means that often the ruts will change from lap to lap. This makes line choice and consistency critical and demands absolute focus from all the competitors. The riders who do well at Wonthaggi tend to be those with good technique and sound technical skills rather than balls out speed. A lapse in concentration and this track will come up and bite you. While this makes it challenging for the riders, it's usually pretty great for spectators as it frequently leads to some nail-biting racing. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I've managed to round up 3 riders who will be racing this weekend for a quick chat about how things have been going in the lead up to the MX Open and their plans for the rest of the year. First on the line, I have Riley Fucsko. I first saw Riley ride back in about 2016 at the Frankston motocross track, and as a junior he was a bit of a phenom, and he's one of those riders that just oozes natural talent on a motorcycle. Now at the age of 21, it looks like he's doing everything he can to try and make his mark on the pro ranks in the MX2 class, starting with the MX Open this weekend. G'day Riley, welcome to the podcast. You've been racing at a pretty high senior level for quite a few years now, but it sounds like this year you're really going to have a serious crack at the pro ranks.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
So first off, for the AMX Open, which is coming up this weekend, what class are you going to be racing?
I'll be racing in the MX2 class.
At the practice track, I'm pretty sure I've seen you riding 450s and 250s at various times. Do you prefer the 250 or the 450?
I prefer the 250. The 450s, they're definitely a handful. They're good to practice on just because you save your practice bike or your race bike. You don't have to flog them as much.
Yeah, and I think you haven't seen you at the track. You like to put the bikes through their paces, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm getting there slowly.
Of course, the AMX Open will be held at the iconic Wonthaggi motocross track, which also happens to be where the first round of the Nationals is going to be held in early March. The loamy surface there is a bit like the Frankston track where you spent a lot of time as a junior. Is Wonthaggi the type of track that suits your riding style?
It's funny that you say that. I used to ride Frankston a lot, but I actually enjoy riding hard pack more than I like riding the sand. The sand, I'm still getting my bearings around it, to be honest. It's definitely a challenging track, Wonthaggi, for me.
Oh, definitely. It's known to be very demanding, and it gets really technical sometimes, especially I can imagine after a bunch of pro riders have been around there for 25-minute motos. But you're looking...
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you're looking next level fit. I believe you train under Jade's Oates at Oates MX. How's that been going?
Yeah, that's good. So I'm starting up under Oates MX development. I used to get trained by Jade when I was a kid, when I was like 12, and up until I was like 16, and then I kind of stopped for a few years, and then I'm back with him now. Get a solid program under me for the Nationals.
Oh, fantastic! So what's he sort of got you doing in terms of training, both on and off the bike?
So on the bike, we'll be training 2 days a week. He's going to have to, I'm still going to learn the program because I think it's changing from what it used to be. There's a couple more riders and whatever else he's got going on. And off the bike training, I'm just training at Reebok CrossFit every night, just doing all that. So, yeah.
You sort of focused on more aerobic fitness or strength, or a bit of both?
Probably a bit more strength at the moment. My cardio fitness is pretty good, just getting a bit more muscle on me to throw the bike around a little more.
Fair enough. I have to give a shout out to your dad, John, as well. Every time I've seen you at the track over the last 6 or so years, he's always by your side. He's got to be one of the most committed moto dads I've ever seen. Apart from being your dad, what does he bring to your program?
Dad's actually very good. Dad has been, especially in the last few years, he's ramped up for me pretty heavy, like just because he knows how serious I want to be with it, so he doesn't let me slack at the track or anything like that. Even just being my practice mechanic, so I don't have to worry about anything at the track. He's switched on with all of it. He's a bike mechanic. He's qualified to work on bikes by trade, so it definitely helps out a lot.
I'm sure you give him plenty to work on too.
I definitely am hard on the gear sometimes.
He told me that you're planning to race every round of the MX Nationals this year. That's pretty awesome, and I'm looking forward to see how you go. Have you set any goals for yourself as far as the Nationals go?
I've got some goals in mind this year. I raced them last year, and I had some good races and I had some bad races. That was my first time doing them. So this year I've got a new set of goals, and I'm just going to chip away at kicking them throughout the year and see how I go.
Yep. Can you expand on that anymore as to what you're sort of aiming for, or you want to keep that sort of under wraps?
Yes, I'm aiming on getting inside the top 20 more than less and just scoring points and just honestly just staying consistent, to be real. I had times last year where I'd show good speed and I just couldn't hold it for the whole 30 minutes. I just would kind of flame out towards the end. So just working on keeping my consistency towards the end of the motos and scoring points.
Yep. So is the plan to try and make a career out of racing motocross?
To be honest, it actually is. I'm sick of working a full-time job, and I see motocross is a full-time job, but I enjoy training and doing all that stuff. I'm sick of working in a trade, to be honest.
No, I think you have to love it, whatever you do. That's the key to a happy life. What about Supercross? Is that on the cards too?
I haven't ever ridden on a Supercross track, but I'm definitely would be keen to slowly start building my way into it for sure.
Awesome. To race at a professional level all around the country takes a lot of dedication and support. Who have you got supporting your program?
To be honest, really, it's just me and my dad. I work full-time now, but I'm swapping to part-time, so I support it, and Dad works 2 jobs. He has his own business and works at Burnett Suzuki. It's really just me and Dad supporting the program. I just have to put it up to me and Dad. Yeah, that's it.
Oh wow, that's a big effort, mate. Definitely kudos to both of you. For the listeners, what bike are you on and what number are you running?
My number is 208 and I'm riding a Husqvarna.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's been a blast having you on the podcast, mate. I'd love to have you on again in the future. Thanks, and best of luck at the AMX Open.
No worries. Thanks for having me. It was good to have a chat.
And that was Riley Fucsko, As I mentioned before I got Rolly on the line, I've been seeing him around the local tracks for quite a few years now, and I've chatted to his dad a few times, but I've never really spoken to Rolly himself. So it was nice to finally break the ice. Apologies to the listeners if my audio was a little loud during the interview. I've just adjusted my settings, so hopefully it should be better for my next call. Next on the line, I have Jai Constantinou. After making the leap from privateer to factory pro at the end of 2021, Jai finished with an impressive second overall at the last MX Open just over a year ago in his very first ride for the Empire Kawasaki team. The now 23-year-old then went on to achieve some solid results in both pro motocross and supercross throughout 2022. This year, Jai is looking to keep the momentum going and chasing that MX dream as he enters his second year racing with the Empire Kawasaki team. How's it going, Jai? Great to have you on the podcast. You've just come off your first full year racing MX2 aboard the KX250 with the Empire Kawasaki race team. How do you feel about your results and, more importantly, the progress you made through 2022?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's good to get a chance to say a few words. But last year was not too bad of a season. First full season in MX2, so yeah, that was a positive with not too much going on in the last few years before that. But results-wise, we had some ups and downs, but got some of the best results I had and learned a lot in the process. So looking to take what we learnt last year into this year and hopefully build off that. But all in all, it was a good season and had a good time. So. Yeah.
Oh, that's good, mate. All things considered, I think it was a pretty successful year. You came away with a 7th overall in the Pro MX last year and an 8th overall in Aussie Supercross. With a race podium at round 5 of the motocross in Maitland and a top 5 at round 1 of the Supercross in Melbourne, I think we all got a good glimpse of your potential. What sort of things did you take away from the 2022 season and how are you going to apply that this year?
Well, the 2022 season was my first full year racing on a team as well, so definitely learned a lot working with those guys and how to sort of work in a team environment. So I feel like as the season went on, we started gelling together quite well. And with another year with the Empire Motorsports team, I feel like we can only build off that. But a couple of highlights through the year with, like I said, a couple of top 5s and a moto podium. I felt like when things gelled and clicked, those races actually felt quite easy and were some of the easier races I had that year. So I feel like with a bit more learning and building, that's where I would like to see myself and feel like it's an achievable result, and that's where we should be.
I think it's going to be a good year. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I have to ask, what was it like racing in front of a big crowd at Marvel Arena in the combined Aussie Supercross / WSX event last year?
Oh, yeah, it was awesome. Like, that's what I've dreamed of since being a young kid. So to actually get to do it, it was insane, and it was definitely a highlight for sure. And yeah, I loved it, and having my family there and friends, and just the track was built super safe and really good. And the racing was so intense, but few deep breaths throughout the night and a couple cartwheels in the morning. But ended up the night good, and yeah, it was definitely a highlight of last year. So I loved it.
Yeah, there must have been a real buzz. Looking ahead, we've got the AMX Open coming up this weekend at Wonthaggi. You came away with a 2nd overall in the MX2 class a year ago, a fantastic result. That was only a couple of months after joining the Empire Cowie team. Dare I say it, what's the chances of you going one better this year?
Oh, that's the go. Yeah, for sure. I'd love to take the win to kick off the season right. But last year was good with the second. It was the first race of the team, so sort of got things underway then. But for sure, would like to go that one step higher, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, well, looking at your results at the AMX Open and the first round of the Pro MX last year, also at Wonnie, you're obviously pretty strong at the Wonthaggi motocross track. Is it a circuit that you like?
It's a love-hate relationship with the track. It's pretty gnarly and gets hard, but we do spend a fair bit of time there training with Beaton's Pro Formula crew. But it is a good track and it's super challenging, and it's a good track. So looking forward to getting a bit of a pre-season run there at the AMX Open, and then carry that momentum into the first round of the Nationals there on the 5th of March, which should be good too.
Yeah. From what I've seen, it looks like your teammate Haruki Yokoyama is going to be racing the AMX Open for Empire Cowie this year too. I've seen him putting in the laps at PBI Ride Farm lately, and he's looking pretty spicy. Do you guys ride together much?
Yeah, we do. We train together a fair bit. So, it's been awesome riding with Haruki, and he's a good guy. And yeah, laughs off the track, but it's pretty serious when the helmets come on. So it's been awesome training with Haruki. Yeah, good time.
Yep, and as you sort of mentioned, you trained with Ross Beaton on the Beaton's Pro Formula program. How long have you been on that program, and what's that been like?
Yeah, it's been really good. He helps bring the structure into it during the week and keeps us accountable. So, yeah, in and around a fast group of boys and, and girls. There's a few girls in the program too. But, no, it's really good. This is my third year going with Ross and really looking forward. We've just fired things up this pre-season and, it's all been smooth sailing so far and really keen to get a good bit of volume under the belt and then hit the Nationals pretty hard this year and get the results we're all chasing.
Yep. Does he look after all your off-bike training too?
Roscoe gets his hands on everything. He's making sure we're doing the work on and off the bike. And he's pretty in control of everything. But we're trainer John Park, who has a program sorted for me. But for sure, definitely both of them make sure we're doing the work both on and off the bike and leaving no stone unturned. So it's good to start looking over our shoulders like that.
Yeah, well, it sounds definitely like you're putting in the work. There's a whole bunch of savages on the Pro Formula program. Does that give you confidence or does it keep you humble?
A bit of both. Can work either way. You're either doing pretty well and you feel pretty good, or but then there's definitely people. There's always someone to chase and there's always someone at your heels. So, it's really good and it's getting to do what you love every day is pretty fun, and especially with a good group of boys like that on good tracks, it makes some good times.
I can imagine. Having seen you guys training, sometimes it looks like you all get along pretty well. So before we go, I saw you put a call out for personal sponsorship opportunities in 2023. Did you want to say anything about that? And is there anyone else you'd like to thank?
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to thank Fleetwood Print Group Mark, who helped me put that proposal together, and he just helped me look at racing from a different point of view and trying to get a bit of additional support to make it a bit more achievable to go racing full time and things like that. Because trying to turn it from a hobby into a profession, definitely you need to incorporate a lot more of that sort of stuff to take it to the next step. But just trying to make life a little bit easier to go racing. But that's all that was sort of about. But it's been good, and hopefully this year we can get the results that we're after and keep building off that.
Yeah, would you look at doing the WSX if the opportunity was there?
Oh, 100%. I think that's would be a goal of mine and the next sort of step. But definitely got a few things we've got to achieve over here first, and in our domestic series here in Australia with both indoors and out. But for sure, that's the next step that I'd love to do, and just keep chipping away. And as long as I keep enjoying it and loving it, I reckon that hopefully end up there and just go with the flow and put in the work and keep a smile on my face, I think, is my goal. But it should be good.
Oh, that's the way to do it. Well, the way you've been going, I think the world's your oyster. So, I really appreciate your time on the phone today, and good luck this weekend. Hopefully catch up with you again soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for giving me the time.
Cheers. And that was Jai Constantinou from the Empire Kawasaki team. No matter how many times I get the opportunity to speak to some of the guys at the pointy end of the sport, it never ceases to amaze me how humble most of them are. And Jai is clearly no exception. Back when he was racing as a privateer, I saw lots of people cheering him on as he'd come past lap after lap. And after chatting to him today for the first time, I can understand now why he's got quite the fan base. Not only is he an amazing rider, he comes across as super friendly and laid back as well. My last phone guest on the phone today is Tony Spinelli. Tony is a local to the Basque Coast area, and at the age of 17 is set to make his professional debut at the MX Open this weekend, in the MX1 class of all things. The Wonthaggi track is about a half hour from Tony's home, and a place where he's put in lots of laps, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do this weekend. G'day, Tony. Welcome to the podcast, buddy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So you're making your professional debut at the AMX Open this upcoming weekend. That's got to be pretty exciting for you. Yeah. Are you feeling nervous at all, or do you think that'll come later?
It's getting me a little bit, but I think positive.
Yeah, definitely. Most young riders entering the pro ranks, such as yourself, will typically cut their teeth in MX2, but you've opted to go straight into the MX1 class with all the big dogs. What made you choose the MX1 class?
I don't know. I rode a 450 up when we were in New South Wales. I just really liked it. Got the hand of it real quick.
That's good. To be honest, like when you're making your pro debut, being around older, more experienced riders in the MX1 class probably isn't such a bad thing. The likelihood of them doing something unexpected is probably a lot lower than the riders in MX2. Did that influence your decision as well?
Yeah, a little bit. I feel a lot more experience and a lot more switched on.
Obviously, the motos are going to be a lot longer and the track's a lot gnarlier probably than what you've raced as an amateur. What sort of things have you been doing during the lead up to the MX Open to prepare for that?
I've been doing heaps of cycling and hitting the gym a fair bit.
Yep, you've been getting out on the track much?
Not really, because I had my injury started last year. So,
what did you do?
Fractured all vertebrae in my back and ruptured the spleen.
But you're all good now?
Yeah, just started getting back on the bike and training a fair bit.
Oh, nice. Have you got a coach or a trainer?
Yeah, I train with the Oats crew. Got a larger Wheezy, so he's from South Australia, and then there's JH, he's from Hastings.
So what does your training schedule on and off the bike look like?
So pretty much just try to ride 1 to 2 days a week, and then gym, and then heaps of cycling. So try and get the stamina and all that up.
Yeah, oh, nice. So you'll be right with the longer motos?
Yeah, I should be. We did, when we went away with OT and that, we did 30-minute motos. It's pretty hot too, and track was rough, so should be all right.
Yeah, and you survived, obviously.
Yeah.
For the MX Open, do you have a particular goal that you've set for yourself in these races, or are you just looking to gain experience at this stage?
Hopefully just get some good starts and try and run up there with them.
Oh, nice. From some of our discussions off air, I understand that you're planning to race a few of the Pro MX Nationals this year as well. Can you tell me anything about that? Like which rounds are you looking to do?
We're talking about doing like the close ones at Wannie and maybe one in New South Wales or South Australia, around those ones.
Yep. So you just be packing up a van and travelling over?
Yeah.
Cool. For the listeners, what bike will you be on and what number are you running?
I'll be on the KTM 450 and I'll be number 381.
Well, that all sounds super exciting, mate, and I'm genuinely stoked for you. I can't wait to see you out there. Before we go, is there anyone that supports your program that you'd like to thank?
It's mainly Mum and Dad, Sean Ambler from Ambling Along, and Steve Powell from Bolton's Motorcycles. Been a big help.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure the listeners will be cheering for you now, and as I know I will. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
And that was my last phone guest for this episode, Tony Spinelli. I really like the fact that Tony's bucked the path most travelled, instead choosing to have a crack at the 450 class at his first pro outing. Every time we touch base in the lead up to this podcast, he was either at work, at the gym, or at the track. So there's no doubting that even as a 17-year-old, he has a pretty strong work ethic. Thanks again to all the boys for coming on the podcast. I'm hoping I'll have a few more opportunities to catch up with each of them again in the future as the 2023 season gets underway. As I mentioned earlier, they're all at completely different points in their motocross careers, but chatting with them both on and off air, the one thing that is undeniable, to me at least, is that they're all absolutely passionate about moto. Unfortunately, moto in Australia is a pretty hard place to make a living. Whether they're privateers like Riley and Tony, or at the factory level like Jai, it's definitely difficult for these guys to do what they do best without a tremendous amount of external support. So if there's any potential sponsors out there looking for ambassadors to represent their brands or products, I couldn't think of 3 better individuals to get on board, and I wish each of them all the best this weekend. So moving on, let's have a quick look at who they will be up against. The full rider list for this weekend has not yet been released, but we do know about some of the riders who have already signed up. Starting with the MX1 class, we'll be seeing the defending MX Open champion, Kyle Webster, aboard his factory Honda. Originally from Western Australia and now residing just up the road from Wonthaggi, Kyle's a sand riding expert, which will definitely help his chances. The skills he's honed growing up riding WA's sand tracks no doubt contributed to him dominating the rest of the MX1 field at this event just over a year ago. Webster's new teammate, Jed Beaton, will also be racing this weekend and looking to make a triumphant return to Aussie racing after 6 years of racing MXGPs around Europe and the rest of the world. The tracks at the MXGPs get infamously gnarly, and I think that Beaton's extensive experience in those conditions is going to mean he's going to be very strong this weekend too. As Beaton's a rider that we haven't seen racing domestically for quite some time, it's going to be really interesting to see where he sits amongst the rest of Australia's premier class riders. Regan Duffy, who recently signed with the Gas Australia team and is one of the country's best young prospects, will be making his comeback to professional racing at the MX Open after the horrific injuries he sustained at the end of 2021, which sidelined him for the entirety of the 2022 season. I don't think there's a moto fan in the country that isn't looking forward to seeing Duffy race again. I'm really hoping he can return to the form that saw him finish runner-up in 21's Pro MX Championship, where he finished a mere 3 points behind the eventual MX1 champion, CDR Yamaha's Luke Clout. Also confirmed for the MX1 class this weekend is former MX2 contender Bailey Malkowitz, who'll be making his MX1 debut with the WBR Yamaha team. Bailey finished third overall in the Pro MX MX2 championship last year and could definitely make some waves in the big bike class this weekend. I haven't been able to get any confirmation yet if the CDR Yamaha boys will be racing this weekend. That's Pro MX MX1 champion Aaron Tanti, who's always exciting to watch and who finished second behind Kyle Webster at this event last year, and 2021 MX1 champion Luke Clout. Both of these guys are extremely strong at Wonthaggi and have raced the MX Open in the past, so fingers crossed we'll get to see him this weekend. I'm also hoping that we'll get to see South Aussie veteran Go24's Brett Metcalf racing this weekend as well. Medi rounded out the podium at the MX1 Open last year with a third and had a solid Pro MX season in 2022 with a fourth place overall. So if he makes it across, he certainly isn't one to sleep on. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like Hayden Melross will be back racing just yet after he suffered a nasty hand injury during the Aussie Supercross season towards the end of last year, but we wish him all the best. I've no doubt that the full rider list will be confirmed right about the time this episode goes live, and that'll put an end to the speculation. But in any case, the Premier MX1 class is guaranteed to have a strong showing and include plenty of other top riders that I haven't mentioned in this episode. If I had to predict a winner, I'm going to make a safe bet. I think that Kyle Webster will repeat his MX1 Open winning performance from last year. As far as the MX2 class goes, it is stacked. Riders confirmed so far, of course, include Empire Kawasaki's Jai Constantinou, who we heard from earlier, and his teammate, flying at the test track, Haruki Yokoyama. Ryder Kingsford will be there aboard his WBR Yamaha. Yamalube Yamahas, now there's a tongue twister, try say that fast 3 times. Alex Larwood has been confirmed, as have KTM Australia's Nathan Crawford and Caden Minier. Of course, Minier won the National MX3 Championship last year. Noel Ferguson's going to be there in his second year with the Gas Australia team. I really think he's got a very bright future and was very strong in both motocross and supercross last year. We're also going to see the likes of Chandler Burns, Byron Dennis, and a bunch of privateers like Riley Fucsko, who will all be fiercely contesting the 250 class. At the time of recording, there's been no word whether Serco Yamaha's Reece Budd, who won the MX2 class at the MX Open a year ago, will be back to defend his title. The class has so much talent though, I think it's impossible to predict a winner. But with so many riders hungry to make a statement early in the season, I'm expecting there's going to be some serious fireworks. I'd love to see Jai Constantinou go one better this year and end up on the top step of the podium, and Riley get the top 20 finishes chasing. But with so many fast riders in the class, they're definitely going to have to work hard for it. Unfortunately, info about who'll be racing the WMX class has been a little scant so far. I did try to reach out to a couple of female pro riders to see if I could get a few words for the podcast, but I'm sad to say I wasn't able to make it happen. I'm pretty confident though we're going to see Empire Kawasaki's Taylor McCutcheon. She dominated the women's class at the MX Open last time. I've seen her at some of the local tracks recently, laying down motos, and she's looking fast. Taylor's got one of those styles that makes everything look effortless. We're still a few days out from the event, but the weather around Wonthaggi is famous for its volatility too. I should say infamous. And Saturday is forecast to be an absolute scorcher, with its temperatures predicted to be in the mid to high 30s. With the humid conditions we've been experiencing in the last few days, we're probably also due for some rain and possibly even a storm. Fortunately, the crew at Wonthaggi are magicians when it comes to preparing the track. So if it's any less than torrential rain and gale force winds, I think we can still expect to see a well-prepped track and some excellent racing. All right, I think that just about concludes this episode. If you've made it this far, I really hope you enjoyed it. I definitely want to give another shout out and say thanks to Riley Fucsko, Jai Constantinou and Tony Spinelli for giving up some of their time to chat with me today. It's always nice to hear from the riders firsthand, and I hope I'll get another opportunity to have them on the show again in the future, maybe for a long-form podcast. I'd also like to thank the sponsors of the Mental for Moto podcast again, Death Grip Products and Works Racing. We're only early in our podcasting journey, so I really appreciate these guys for coming aboard and having faith in what we're doing. If you've only just discovered Mental for Moto, please go back and listen to some of our previous episodes too. I'd love to hear what you think of the show so far. If you have any other thoughts or feedback, any guest suggestions, or are interested in coming aboard as a guest or a sponsor of the podcast, please reach out via the contact form on our website or DM me via one of our social profiles. I've got some great guests lined up over the coming weeks, and I'm looking forward to doing some more long-form interviews in 2023. So please subscribe to the Mental for Moto podcast via your favourite platform, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or simply by heading to our website. And keep an eye out for another episode in the very near future. Once again, thanks for listening, and hopefully I'll bump into some of you this weekend at Wonthaggi. See ya.